And welcome. Today we have our Patreon live stream, and we're hopefully people drop in as they find the link online. We've got the links are always available. We post it on Patreon for all our patrons to be able to get. And we also post it in our Discord, which is available to all our patrons. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring in our first person that did show up today. We've been chatting already for a bit, so here's Dominic. Hey, Dominic,
Hi,
how you
everybody.
doing?
Good. Doing great. Actually,
Yeah. So hopefully we've got a few more people showing up. Couldn't get a hold of David. I meant to mention him or message him last night. I messaged him a couple times this morning, so he must be enjoying a nice weekend camping. So, hey, Stig, how you doing? Stig's here in the chat. Feel free to join us. I'm not sure if you've settled into your new place. I know you were moving, so hopefully that's going well for you. So, and maybe Raymond will show up sometimes if he's available. He will show up and whatnot. So, we were talking a little earlier, and I'll let you guys know. Dominic has a project he's been working on for his grandson that's pretty slick, and it was a Kickstarter, right?
yeah, yeah. It was Brian Vines, BD3D, kind of did a review of their latest thing, which is a spaceship involved thing of something called Printablock, um, and it's really cool because it's like an alternative to Legos that's easily 3D printable, unlike the Lego models that I've seen that
Yeah.
just don't seem to work out. Are just kind of
I think you need like a resin printer, or you have to put in like a point 0.1 nozzle, and one brick will take you 2 days.
yeah. But this thing has all these hundreds of different styles of like these blocks that um, um, and they connect together using these tiny little connectors. I don't know if it'll focus on that or not, but in any event, the little connector goes in the block, and then they connect together. They
Nice.
just kind of snap together, and then you connect them in various different ways. There are tons of different ones for, and they just connect together, and even has swivels and
Oh,
and uh, uh,
some pivots and whatnot.
pivots and whatnot. Um, this is a ball and socket kind of joint sort of thing. I
Nice.
don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
Um, all,
And they
all
and you said they snap together pretty nicely.
Yeah, very easily, very easily. Um, uh, they just then you hear a little. Well, you can't hear it,
Yeah,
but
it's a pretty
the,
satisfying click.
the satisfying click, and it's got like these pivoting things. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
all kinds of different
So that's like the
ideas.
foot the foot of the robot kind of thing.
Yeah, something like that. Um,
Yeah.
and like I said, he's got some that swivel and all. Like I said, I would venture a guess about at least 100, if not 200 different little models. And you get all the models of the STLs, and you can print them individually. And for the things like the different sets, each like let's say each robot that you're going to print comes in 5 different collections on a
Right.
single plate.
So now this was a Kickstarter,
Yeah.
right? So now that the Kickstarter obviously is done, is he like selling the designs somewhere
Yes.
that you can get them, or
Yes. His website himself is called 3DP uh, uh, 3DP Professor. So there's two P's.
3DP Professor? Okay.
Yeah. .com, and that's where you can find him. And so you don't have to. he doesn't have the Kickstarter deal anymore, but the individual kits, like he's got a mech kit and
Right.
two
Right.
different mech kits. He's got a
Mhm.
space kit and he's got some other kit, and they're some like $15, $20, something like that. Um, very affordable if you consider what all you get. Now, granted, you have to print them yourself, but all the modeling is already done. It's and not only do you get the little uh, uh, plate collections of parts, but all the parts are individually available too. He gives you all of the STLs. Like I said, divided up into different folders.
Okay.
Um, very well done, and he is responsive. If you have a question, you ask a
Right.
question, get back to you. And I believe he has uh, some kind of community, a Discord or something like that. Uh,
Okay.
the guy's been around a while. I've seen some of his reviews on things and things like that. He's um, pretty knowledgeable.
I'll have to get you to maybe put the link or to his site in the chat, and then I'll share it out for everyone, so that
Okay,
they can have a look at it.
yeah, is the chat available from here?
Yeah. So just below your buttons on the screen there, that says private chat. If you
Oh yeah,
click on that, you should be able to just type it in there, and then I can take it and put it in
okay,
the
I'll,
main
I'll,
main chat.
I'll do that. I just
Yeah.
want to verify that I've got the right information. But
So, yeah. So, and then Stig said, yeah, he just doing fine, just done moving. So that's good. I'm glad you now it's just unpacking and organizing. Hey, Stig, that's the last part that always takes the longest. The moving is not normally too bad. So one of my projects I've been working on is my daughter had a little battery bank, and it had a pouch cell batteries in it, and it kind of swole up and wasn't charging anymore, and it looked pretty dangerous. So I took the battery out and I printed a little case here, and this is just a prototype case, and then it's got a little screen and whatnot, and then I'm building a 3D printed housing for some batteries, and I'm building a whole new battery bank to replace the old one. I bought her a new one, but this will be my kind of project. So yeah, so that's kind of what I've been kind of puttering around with. So
you can't have too many battery banks.
no, I agree. So yeah, so that's kind of what I've been working on. So I'm going to put that link that Dominic has given us here. I'll throw it in chat. So if you're interested in the little project that Dominic was doing, and you said that was for your grandson, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a neat little thing. I swear when I was growing up, there was similar blocks that you'd have to clip together like that and whatnot. I think even Lego has a few pieces that kind of clip together like that too. So, and Stig says, yeah, going to be living out of boxes for a while. Yeah.
Oh,
I think I still have some boxes from when we moved in this house sitting somewhere. I think we might have maybe opened the last one after 8 years.
oh, by the way, Brian Vines on BD3D, his latest video is a review of the the Kickstarter, although the Kickstarter is over.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. What does Stig say here? I've been thinking about building an enclosed printer using my CR10S Pro as a donor. Enclosed printers are nice, especially if you want to print ABS, right? We actually, before the show, we had a kind of a pre-show where Dominic and I were chatting, and we were talking about the blocks that he's printing, and I believe you printed those ones out of PLA, correct?
Yeah.
And so we're after a while, those little clips will kind of lose their springiness, and they don't quite snap as well as when they were first printed. So, I mean, that's a part you could probably print a whole bunch of extra, but we were talking, okay, well, what would be the better material? Would PETG work better? Now PETG is more stretchy and whatnot, but it can, it will bounce back to a certain degree. I just don't know if it's going to hold up as well. And then we were talking about ABS and the trials and tribulations of potentially printing with ABS, and you need a heated enclosure, and you don't have cooling on, and you have to watch for warping. So if you have, and Dominic said he has a tent, right? One of those 3D printing tents. So that's definitely, if you have some sort of insulated enclosure to maintain the heat is great. And then we were talking a little bit about, if you've printed any mods, if they're not printed out of ABS, if they're printed out of PLA and you put it in a heated enclosure, you get droopiness, and all of a sudden your prints aren't going to be good. So if you do decide to go that route, and you have an all metal hot and you have all the other stuff that you need, probably the first thing you should print is the parts that you printed out of PLA. The first thing you should print is print them out of ABS so that you don't get drooping. So, but yeah, an enclosure is good. I've got my little Voron back here, and I'm going to move it outside this week. I'm on holidays, so I think I'm going to move it outside to the garage where I'm not going to get gassed out of my own little 3D printing space here. Much more ventilation out there, and I'm going to start tuning it for ABS, because I have some ABS and I do have some parts I want to print, and so that's my next kind of project, in between all the other honey-do lists I have for my holidays.
I just wanted to mention in terms of PETG,
Yep.
this is a chip clip. It's
Yep.
way over engineered. I mean, it's got a cam in it.
Wow.
And
Nice.
it'll clip down. But I printed this out of PLA at first,
Yep.
and because of the stress it puts on itself, PLA will either deform or it'll crack.
Right.
This is PETG. It works much better.
And it's held up quite well.
Yeah, it holds up quite well. It gets a little bit of deformation, just a tiny bit. It doesn't quite clamp down as hard as it originally did. But
Yeah,
pretty much it's okay.
Yeah, PETG is a little more compliant. I printed a lot of my printer parts in PETG, but not everything. And so some of the stuff I got to reprint either in PETG or ABS. The top of the Hulk back here, the purple piece here, that was a one-piece print on the CR10 in PETG, so that I didn't have, because they have a 4-piece that you can do on an ender, and then you can like screw it together and whatnot. But I was like, no, I want one piece. So I printed it on the CR10, and I could get the full size off of it, and that worked really well. So
yeah, it just seems that PETG handles a load better than
yes,
PLA. Like I had something else for my I had the clamp up around the bar.
Yep.
And you screw it down and get it clamped in good, and it'd be okay. But then within a couple weeks, the PLA would crack.
Yeah.
Well,
PLA is very brittle, right? And the PETG just if you've watched CNC Kitchen before, if you look at his stress tests when he uses PETG, they'll stretch quite a bit before they actually break. Whereas any of the PLA parts, basically shatter. So it definitely I think it's the glycol in it. It allows like a more elasticity in it. So yeah.
But you're saying that ABS handles stress better than.
Well, it's just stronger in general, but it's trickier to print. So PETG, I would try some parts in PETG. See if they work out, because PETG. I mean, that's what Stig uses all the time for pretty much everything he print. He's got his printer so tuned in that he gets beautiful, very that. I always get the wispy strings every once in a while. I mean, I think that's just, the way PETG is, but the almost hairs, right? But yeah, no, it is a good material, and but it can be kind of finicky at times. But it's not as much of a pain to print, right? Because you can print it on pretty much any printer. So it's very, very nice in that respect, that you don't have to have a heated enclosure, and you don't have to have the bed temperature super high and everything to get a decent print out of it. So, and I've had some really nice prints out of PETG. So
It took me a while to get my printer tuned for PETG.
yeah,
The first times I tried it, I thought, PETG was just something I couldn't print with, because the surface layers on the walls was always weird and just not.
yeah,
They just wasn't quality stuff.
yeah,
But finally, I just worked at it. Now I can print. My PETG stuff comes out just as well as the PLA. It's just.
yeah. And sometimes that's it could be temperature of the version of filament you have. Sometimes it's too much cooling versus not enough cooling, and because that's one thing I found is I had to drop my cooling down when I was working with PETG. If I had my cooling too high, it just, the part wasn't very strong. Like
Yeah.
it cooled too quickly, so it didn't bond to the previous layer well enough. So yeah. But yeah, Stig says he's got his stuff printing at 100 millimeters a second, so he's got it tuned right in. We need
Yeah.
to copy all his profiles.
I'm up to 85.
Yeah,
I don't know if I haven't tried going faster than that. So it's like,
yeah,
but everything's good at 85, and
yeah, yeah.
um,
Well, the other kind of thing I wanted to talk about today is I was watching Tom Sedlander.
salamander.
Salamander. Well, anyway, I was watching Tom's channel, and he was kind of doing a quick overview and review of he was discussing basically going from that 0.4 nozzles aren't as good as 0.6 nozzles for everything, speed wise and whatnot, and how the Arcane engine. He was talking Prusa specifically, because Prusa is now implementing the Arcane engine, and you can toggle it on and off
But you got to use
within.
the alpha.
Yeah, with it, but you have to use the alpha. But if you're using Kira, you've already got the Arcane engine and whatnot if you have the latest update of Kira 5. But he was basically talking that he can get very good quality, like minimal changes on prints. And if you're doing a larger print, like something like, this, for example, you're never going to, a 0.4 is really not made for making boxes. I mean, you could do it, and this was printed at 0.4, but basically his conclusion was, 0.6 is a good sweet spot with Arcane engine, because the way it does the infill lines and variable widths and whatnot allows you to get pretty darn good fine detail, even at the 0.6 nozzle width. So yeah, so it was pretty interesting to see that. So I've got a whole raft of tips, and so I've got a whole bunch of 0.6s here and in 0.8. So I think I'm going to do some experimenting,
Cool.
and I think I might do like a couple prints on this one, couple prints on that one, couple prints on that one, and just kind of time them all and see if I get the similar results. Because I mean, who doesn't want to print faster, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he
And
was. Go ahead.
I'd be particularly concerned with what kind of changes do I, slicey changes do I need to make when I go from 4 to 6?
Right, and typically when you configured your printer to that nozzle size, everything like in Prusa, it's very automatic. Like it automatically changes all the profiles because they're built in. And Cura is very similar in what they do. So there, if you have a hardened profile that you've worked out for 0.4, you may want to rename that and label it 0.4, so that, and then start a new profile in Cura or Prusa, whatever you're printing with, with the new setup, just to test it out. And you might find that it works really well, or you might have to slowly bring over certain settings speed-wise, because it changes a lot, because you're reducing the back pressure by having a larger nozzle, right? Because some of the retractions and whatnot, that speed will change. Some of the extrusion, if some of your stuff you had to really push more filament through, so you had to adjust your E-steps and whatnot, you may not have to be aggressive with that, because it should be flowing through quite a bit better.
And I imagine flow setting would have to be changed.
Exactly. You're going to have to kind of adjust that a little bit. So, yeah, I want to experiment with that, and see, because most of the stuff I'm doing is like little prototypes or this and that. I'm not doing like high detailed figurines. Like you said, Dominic, that you've done some little characters for your grandson and whatnot. And if they've got really high detail and they're small and whatnot, well then, maybe 0.4 or even smaller might be better, but it just takes longer, right? So, yeah. So I thought that was really, that was one of the latest videos that I've been watching, and that really piqued my interest. So I definitely want to, because I haven't really branched out. Like I have a 1.0 nozzle here and a 0.8, and I haven't really tried them. Like I have them, but once you got your printer tuned and working, it's like, do I want to mess with it? Right? So I think I'll start with my kit here, my Ender 3. I'll start with that one, play around, change the nozzle size, see how I like it. If I like it, then I'll move to the next one and do some test. So I'll do some test prints and decide, does it work for me? Do I like it? And then I'll come back and I'll film what I'm doing, and I'll let you guys know. I'll actually put out a real video, not just a live stream.
And this kind of thing is why I'm thinking about the idea of going with a Revo
Right.
just because
You can, yeah. And that's the one thing I don't have. I have the Hemera on this guy here, so I should be able to do the upgrade and change the nozzle and heater, so that I can do the quick change. But yeah, like, I mean, on a big printer like that, a small nozzle really doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Right? That one I should have probably a 0.8 or maybe a 1. Right? Now you're going to go through a lot of filament fast. Like, it's just going to be like watching a old reel tape spin.
Well, then that's where you've got to have a really high flow hot end, just to be
Yep.
able to melt the plastic fast enough.
Right, and that's why the Revo might be a good choice, right? Because their heater cartridge is pretty efficient,
Yeah.
right? So, and Stig says he uses point 0.6 nozzles all the time. So Stig, do all your printers have point 0.6? Is that like kind of your go-to nozzle size for most of your printing then? Because 100 millimeters per second at 0.6, things will print really quick. That's what I'm thinking. So, for sure. But yeah, so Gary, I see is here, and who else has been? I don't see anyone. I haven't seen Ray yet. But one of the things we got to do, as we normally do, is remind people that you can join us on Patreon. And this is our monthly live stream that we do, and we invite any of our patrons to come on and join us. We put the link in our Discord, and we put the link on our Patreon site. And then you can come join us, have a nice chat with Dominic. It's always nice to interact with everyone in our community because, finding out what they're doing, the little robotic kits and the whatnot that Dominic has kind of found is really great and whatnot. So, and we love questions too. So don't forget that if you have any questions, I've got one that I've been meaning to get back to, but you can email us, and this goes to David and myself, info@3dmakeit.ca, for any kind of questions you have, and we'll try to get back to you. But a lot of our that's most for people that don't have the Discord and whatnot, because we have lots of good conversations in Discord. And Ray was just showing off last week or the week before all the lightsabers he's been building, which was they're really cool looking. So he's got a whole kind of raft of them with different parts, and you can mix and match and whatnot. So it's a really good community and whatnot. So it's nice to have everyone here and chatting and whatnot. And yeah, Stig confirms. Yeah, he uses 0.6 on all his printers. So yeah, I'm definitely going to try it out, and I think on my big one, I'll even try out the 0.8 and see how I like it and go from there. So, and Dominic, you have two printers, right?
Yeah.
You have the Ender 5,
Ender 5 and Ender 3.
and Ender 3, and you've done some mods and upgrades to them, right?
Yeah. Lots of crazy things. Hero Me, the Ender 5, I put a Hero Me with dual 15 fans, which is way overkill, but it's because of the fact that I don't go over 50% cooling, you can't hear those fans.
Right.
Let's see, I put in the mosquito heat break, a bimetal nozzle,
Right.
it's a plated copper nozzle, and I insulated the bed, did all that crazy
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah, and those I love doing that kind of stuff too. My Ender is fairly stock, mechanics wise. I haven't switched out the hot end yet. It's still the stock hot end. I've got a BL Touch on it, and I did switch the board. So I've got a Big Tree Tech. I think this one's got the 1.4 in it, and I did the mod that Teaching Tech did, where he at the back of the printer, it's got the Pi and the board in the back of the printer. So I've got space. The whole front bottom of the Ender is open, so it's free space. I might put some drawers or something under there. But other than that, that one's fairly stock. I did modify the power supply to make it quieter. I did a video on that where I printed a shroud and put a 120 millimeter fan. And I've done that to most of my printers, is to cool, because the noisiest part once you have silent steppers are the fans. That's what you found too, Dominic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So on my CR10, I took the case, pulled all the electronics out, and I actually installed them underneath the bed. So I've got my control panel out front here, and all the electronics are integrated into the bottom, and the power supply is integrated into the bottom with the Pi. So the Pi just sits just behind here. And then I did a similar mod on the Chiron, which I've done videos on, which I put an 120 millimeter fan on both the power supply and on the control box, and so they're way quieter. That one, the Chiron has I think it's 1,000 watt power supply. Like, it's so overkill. Like, I mean, it's a big bed, but when you calculate out the draw on the bed and whatnot, it didn't need to be quite that big. They probably could have got away with a 500, but it works fine. And I put the big fan in, and that quieted it down. So my printers are fairly quiet. And those are the kind of the mods that I've done, is like to quiet them down, because if I have them all going and whatnot, oh man, when I first fired up my printer and it didn't have silent drivers, wow, you could hear it 2 rooms away.
That Ender 3 didn't have silent drivers on it. It was although my daughter said she liked the music that it played. It did that little.
You're right, yeah.
And but then I put silent drivers in. I want to say this. When I've been toying with the idea of all metal hot end, everybody talks about all metal hot end, and I just decided to go and the heat break that I put in there is from E3D. It's the Copperhead, not the Mosquito. It's a
Yeah,
Copperhead.
okay, yeah.
It's a bimetal heat
Break, yep.
Yeah, and it was something like $30, something like that. Sounds expensive for a heat break, but it's bimetal, all metal, and I put it right in my Ender hot end. Didn't replace anything else. Same heater, same
Yep.
thermistor. Slapped everything back together. Put in a new plated nozzle. That's all I did. Made all the difference in the world, I think. And I've never had one issue. No clogs, no jams, no nothing.
Yeah.
From the time I put it in.
Yeah, there's little mods you can do. Like, all of my printers I've upgraded, like, for example, to these yellow springs. And you can get the blue ones and whatnot. They're quite a bit, like, if you look at it, they're quite a bit thicker and stiffer. And if you are constantly re-leveling after, a long print or whatnot, that'll help, because the stiffness really, I mean, some people have gone, like, if you really are, got it dialed in, some people could do the silicone, hard silicone, rubber pieces that you just put in. Once you get it dialed in, it never moves. But I've really found that these springs, and for like $10, you can get like 20. So you can do lots of printers for that price, and a lot, and they work really well. I don't know if you've done any springs, Dominic.
Until I went with solid mounts after getting a PCABL thing. I found that the biggest thing that made a difference in bed leveling was, and this is going to sound crazy, but to use a flex PEI surface, one of those, because it seemed to me that by scraping parts off my glass bed,
Yep.
that would change the level of the bed.
Yep.
And so once I switched to that, if I just made it religiously, just took the thing off, didn't touch the bed except for putting the plate back on,
Yeah.
my bed stayed level a lot longer.
I have found that just adding the stiffer springs does really make a difference, even if you have glass.
Yeah.
It keeps it more true longer. But what I did was I have the textured on one side, and then I bought at our local 3D printing shop, I bought quite a thick PEI sheet, and I just cut it to fit, and it had 3M adhesive on the back and stuck it on, and I tell you, it works fabulous.
I like the smooth PEI better than the texture.
Yeah, so the one side's full smooth PEI and one's textured. And depending on the print, like I like the textured bottom depending on which kind of print I'm doing, right? So then I can just flip it. So it's nice. I really like it. David has a couple of sheets like that, and I see he did show up in the comments there, and he says Yellow Springs are the way. So are you camping, David? Did we miss you? I don't know if he responded to any of my. Oh, he did respond. Let's find out where he was, because he's not here today. So he was partying too late last night. So he probably needed to sleep in. Well, you're welcome to join us anytime you want, David. You know how to get in. So, but yeah, I do enjoy the PEI sheets. I have another one here somewhere. Where did I put it? So I have another one that I haven't. This is just steel on the back, and it's PEI on the front. So I do have another sheet of PEI that I will be attaching to this, because it having multiple plates to switch off, very handy to keep going and keep working away. So works nicely.
I know this is going to be a silly question. Is there an easy way to get the PEI smooth side off to replace it?
That's a great question. This thick stuff I have, I probably could just heat it up and peel it off and just heat up the glue and whatnot. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've got one of my PEI sheets. I scratched it when I first got it.
Yep.
And I got another plate instead. But I know that now that I have two printers that I can use, I want to replace that. But
so you don't have to replace it necessarily. If you get like 600 grit or maybe even higher grit sandpaper, and just give it a buff. I mean, it won't be smooth like you used to, but you could get the ridge out of that, the scratch and whatnot, and smooth it out, and then it will, and then you just clean it with isopropyl, and everything will still stick and whatnot, and you may not notice the scratch as bad.
The gouge might be a little too deep, though.
Well, I mean, give it a sand, give it a try. That's if they start. So one of the things that they do suggest is if it stops sticking, is that's the way you do it. Is you isopropyl alcohol, really fine, either sandpaper or polishing, paper or whatever. So something 600, even higher grit, like just so that you're just basically scuffing it, right, all over. And then once you've kind of done the whole nice smooth everywhere, then you'll take the isopropyl alcohol, give it a good cleaning, and then it should stick again for a long time. And this that I have is I think it's like 5 mil. It's where is it? Yeah. So it's quite thick. I don't know if you I don't know if it will show up on camera there, but it's quite thick. Like I'd say it's almost a half a mil thick. And so like this is a pretty big sheet, but I'm gonna cut it up and put it on. Oh, I think this has a label on it still. Yeah, it's 0.5 mil.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's quite thick, this stuff. And it was good. It was a good deal. It was in the clearance bin at Spool.
Whoa.
So I was like, oh, what do we have here? I'm going to try this. So it didn't cost me an arm and a leg or anything. And so I was like, if it didn't work, I'm only out, like $5 or $10. So it was worth a shot. And it works wonderful. Like I highly recommend getting like maybe not that thick, but I think this one will last me a while because, it's stuck on the back of this really well. And these flex plates, they're not very expensive.
Right.
And you can get ones that come either coated on both sides or one side. So
Right.
I don't know, is that what you did? You got yours, was it coated on both sides or?
No, it was one side.
Yeah.
But so I can, realistically thinking about it, I can just put the sheet, the PI I have on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. You just flip it over and away you go. And then you can always have a clean side or whatever. So
I've heard somebody claim that you can print PETG on the bare side if you put down something like nanopolymer,
you can do that, or you can do glue stick, right?
it'll work just on bare metal.
You could try it on bare metal. I just don't, it really depends on, you make sure you clean it really good with isopropyl alcohol because you don't want any finger oils or anything on it. I mean, you could try it. I've had varying success. So a lot of times, he has one that's, David said he has one that's just metal and it works for him. So it really, I think it also depends on the brand of PETG you're using. Cause just like PLA, they're all formulated slightly differently.
Yeah.
If you switch, like if you stick with one brand all the time, you're going to get very consistent results. But if you're just like me and you're cheap and you just buy whatever's on sale, you might be retuning your heat profile here and there.
Well, I see. The PETG more than PLA seems to me the better quality works a lot better than the cheap stuff. PLA,
you can kind of print it you might have to vary the temperature a bit, but it comes out pretty much all the time pretty good.
But I've had cheap PETG that pretty much didn't work at all. And the good stuff always works.
Yeah, and so there's something to be said for spending, if you know that it's, this, if you're just prototyping or whatever, I go cheap. You don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's pink, purple, blue, it doesn't matter, right? But if you're doing a project and it's something very specific, spending, an extra $5-10 on, to have a successful project, why not? Right?
Yeah, and it seems to me that the good stuff is never more than like $8 more than the cheap stuff.
Right.
On a full kilo,
And Stig says glue stick works really well. So if you flip over the metal plate and wasn't sticking well, just give a nice thin coating of glue stick, and away you go. So, David's tried with his ABS. I think David, didn't you do a slurry with acetone and ABS to help print stick? Weren't you experimenting with that at one point? You know, because you want to get a good first layer, and you don't want warping. So ABS is a little bit trickier, but good ABS. Like we most of the Hulk here was printed with the eSun PL or ABS Plus, and it worked really well. It was David didn't have too much. He had a heated enclosure, so he was the one who did all the printing for me, and you didn't have to crank the temperatures as high as you would think for ABS, and it still printed really well. So, you know, just spending a little bit of money on like we spent, you know, I spent some money when we got a few different colors of ABS to try out and whatnot, and it worked well. So spending I didn't mind it that it was $10 more a roll. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, it was for a project that we wanted to turn out correctly. So,
Yeah.
do you have a go-to brand of filament that you use?
I like Coex.
Coex.
They're out of Wisconsin,
Okay.
just north of me. It's made in the U.S. and I like them. Jesse, you know, printed solid is Jesse PLAs.
PLAs. I've heard. I have never tried it, and I know David's bought some of the like various different brands of stuff, and I think he has some favorites. I'm not sure if he's tried Jesse or not, PLA, but
for
yeah.
cheap stuff, you know, just something like I need something. I'll go with go to Amazon and get like Sunlu, G-Tech.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
kinds of
I've Sunlu. I've tried Overture. I used to use quite a bit. You know, they make not too bad stuff. Protopasta.
I've noticed that Overture's going with cardboard.
Yeah, they're
And,
trying to be more
and
environmentally conscious or something. I don't know.
and I think they're even doing starting back with the what is it? Those
The
spoofing.
spoolless ones that you have to clip it
Yeah,
on and clip it
yeah.
together. Yeah. Yeah, I think you can actually use, if you have their old spools, you can reuse them for their refills. So, yeah. Yeah, I had bought when they had, I don't think they have it anymore, the Amazon branded PLA.
They
I
still
bought.
have it.
Do they?
Still have it, but
Because they, for a while there, they didn't have it
yeah,
anymore, and it was okay. It wasn't wasn't the best, but if I'm just quickly prototyping something and whatnot, it was fine.
I've heard that the Amazon stuff was catch as catch can. You know, sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't.
Yeah, because I think they just bought it from whoever had, and then okay, stickers on, we're good.
It was probably overstock. It's probably what it was.
Yeah, yeah. But they were out of stock for a long time.
I know.
Long
Through the
time.
whole COVID thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But so David was saying Protopasta he's used and he likes a lot, and Polymaker. And when we first started printing, we had, you know, I don't know, 3 or 4 rolls of Polymaker that were given to us. And yeah, it prints pretty nice, that Polymaker stuff. It works really well. You know, eSun PLA Plus is what Stig says he'll use, or their PETG. And eSun seems to be good filament. I've had very good luck with it. So I don't know if you've tried it.
I use eSun's Cool White as like my favorite white filament because you know sometimes white filament is
Yeah.
weird.
Inconsistent.
Yeah, their Cool White PLA Plus is works really well. Very smooth.
Nice. Yeah, and that's another thing that people forget is changing the color of your filament can change your print temperature requirements. You may have a really good PLA profile, but you stick black PLA in and it doesn't melt the same. And I don't know if it's the pigment that changes the way it absorbs heat or something. I'm not sure. Because with a white, obviously you've got less pigment in there, right? So I'm not quite sure if that changes the chemical kind of properties of the way it melts. But yeah, you got to tweak it a bit, I've noticed.
I try and do a temp tower with every new filament that I try.
Yeah.
And the only thing I've found that tends to make a difference is in some of your better brands, you can go with you need a higher temperature.
Yep.
And but the 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 quality of the print is always better. So it's like,
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because you'll look on the side of a filament and it'll say 190 degrees. 215 works good for me sometimes for those ones. Sometimes it's 205.
yeah,
It also depends on I don't know if you noticed when you switched to your bimetal heat break
yeah.
and your nozzle, did you find that you had to go up or down with your temperature a little bit when versus what you normally did?
Down.
Yeah. And
I
that's what
reduced my
I
temperature.
found that too. You if you go down, it doesn't plug as much and whatnot, and because it's more efficient at melting the filament.
Yeah. Well, see, I've got a copper, a plated, uh,
Yep.
uh,
The
uh,
bimetal.
yeah, nozzle.
Yeah.
And so I would bet money that conducts heat much better than.
Oh, absolutely. And
And
then
so
just
you're going to get
yeah.
away with a lower temperature because it doesn't need to heat that
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. Yeah. And it doesn't dissipate it quite as quickly. It holds it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you get more consistency. So yeah. So if that's another thing you've got to watch for. If you do decide, I've got this profile, works great. Oh, I'm going all metal. You will do some tweaking. So you'll have to do a print before you make the change, then do it, print after and just verify that, your settings still work or if you need to tweak it a bit. So,
Well, for some reason, when I went with the bimetal, the new all metal heat break, my retraction went way down. I don't understand why. It doesn't make sense to me, but it did.
so you reduced your retraction?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed I had to reduce my retraction too, but that also, when you think about it, the bimetal heat break does change the length of your PTFE tube, right? Because so you're, let's say
by
it's
about
by about
this-
like 3/4 of an inch or an inch.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that, when you think about it, before you're pulling right out of the nozzle into the PTFE tube,
Right.
So now when you do a retraction, you're pulling it back into an all metal heat break.
Yeah.
So if you pull it too far up into that heat break, you're going to get jams.
Right.
So that makes sense to why you have to kind of reduce your retraction a little bit, because you don't want to pull it back. Now, it's also heating it more efficiently. And when you pull it back into the heat break, it's not cooling as much. Whereas if you pull it into a PTFE tube, it's insulated from the heat, right? So it's going to cool it down quicker. So it's kind of a combination of everything.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, well, I think we're close to the end of the show. I want to just remind everyone, please don't forget if you like what you see here and you want to join us, so like, subscribe, share with anyone. We appreciate all your comments on YouTube, and we have, like I said, on our Patreon, we we do, have everyone in Discord and whatnot and chat there as well. Also, just a reminder that we normally try to do a live show at 11 a.m. Daylight Time in the summer as much as we can. We are a little more sporadic right now just because of holidays and whatnot, but 11 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time is when we are live, and you can join us here. And again, I just want to thank all of our patrons. I don't have the slide up. We haven't updated it because a few of our patrons, thank you so much, have moved tiers and whatnot. So thanks so much for your support. Your support means a lot to us. And we love interacting with you again on Discord and chatting. And it makes a big difference just to us because we can do things and different projects and whatnot, and helps supply us. So David is through in chat. Thanks to everyone as well. So he's thanking you as well. And we appreciate everyone joining us here in the chat too. Having all the questions here and contributing to our stream. It's always good to have such a good community. We have a wonderful community. We appreciate you all and whatnot. And Dominic, thank you for joining me today. It's much better talking to someone else rather than to myself on the screen and having to read comments. So I appreciate you and thank you so much for showing up.
I had a fabulous time. By the way, you mentioned it before the show. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about it now.
Sure.
About workshops?
Oh, yeah. So David and I are still tweaking some stuff on how the format's going to look. But we had mentioned a couple shows ago that we want to do kind of a work through on Marlin and how to compile your firmware and whatnot. And so we definitely want to figure out the format, whether it's one workshop or two. One thing I was mentioning to Dominic in our pre-show chat was we have to figure out what's going to work for everyone because, Stig's in a different time zone and Dominic's in a different time zone. So we need to figure out what kind of day works for everyone. Cause I don't, some people are retired, some people work shift work. So we have to figure out something that'll work best for everyone. So we're still working on the logistics of that. But the basic rundown was to go over what's new in Marlin, how to compile it, when you get errors, what are some techniques to help troubleshoot those errors, and try to get it so that everyone can have some success if they want to upgrade their firmware. Not everyone does, and that's okay. But we wanted to offer something like we offer, because we run some workshops for teachers in this local school district to help support them with their 3D printers. And we thought that what better way to kind of give back to the community. And if it is successful with our Patreons, then and we get the feedback from you guys, then maybe we can open up a workshop to our whole 3D Make It community. We're not sure. We haven't kind of worked out the logistics about opening it wider than our Patreons, but for sure, this is something we want as a bonus to give our patrons because we appreciate your support. We want to make sure that you get maybe a little more benefit out of our channel because we do. We appreciate everything you do for us, so we want to give back to you in some way or form other than just the weekly live stream. So that's something we're working on. Again, we're still trying to figure out the exact format. We'll put more information in Discord and get some feedback from you guys on what would work better for you, and try to nail down some dates and whatnot, and actually say, okay, we're doing it now, kind of thing. So yeah. So thanks for reminding me, Dominic. I appreciate that. And thanks again for everyone showing up. We appreciate that you've all been here and chatting and whatnot. And I think I'm going to call it there. I just wanted to read one comment from we'll probably keep the Patreon videos for you guys to look back to. Yeah. So we are going to record whatever we're doing, so that if any questions that come up and whatnot, and then we'll keep it live somewhere so that anyone who's attended the workshop can always refer back to it if they need a refresher or whatnot. They can flip through and check it out. So thanks everyone for coming. I'm going to end the stream here, and then I will probably chat with Dominic a little bit just after we end the stream. So thanks again for coming. Bye everybody.